damseling, and Anita Sarkeesian's recent partnership with Intel. As always, the show will be available for download after the broadcast at honeybadgerbrigade.com. Damseling, and Anita Sarkeesian's recent partnership with Intel.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular, this is Honey Badger Radio, radio with bite.
Hello and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Tonight's topic is Your Princess is in another castle. We have a wonderful group of people who are currently messaging each other in the back, which we can actually hear, so please stop doing that. We have Rachel Edwards. Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I am Rachel Edwards. I am a blogger, writer for the show. You can find my work at tumblr.com, as well as 20ounce.com. That's 20oz.com. And I'm getting a bit of an echo.
Okay, I don't know what the echo is coming from. Let me see. I told you guys that there would be technical difficulties, and there definitely are.
Oh crap! I think it's Karen.
Yeah, I muted Karen. But it's still we're still having an issue. Oh no! Now it's gone. All right, good. We're still having a little bit of an echo problem, but yeah, this is going to be a fun broadcast, guys. We're going about the skin of our frickin' teeth. And there's still an echo. It might be coming from me.
Karen, mute yourself. Mute yourself when you're not talking.
Oh my god, I don't
wear headphones.
I am wearing headphones.
She's wearing headphones. It's not her fault.
Today, just for this. It's not me.
It's not her. I don't know where the echo is coming from, but yes, if you've muted yourself, Karen, it seems like the echo is reduced. Do you have the podcast open?
No.
Okay.
Everything's quiet here. I sent everybody away.
All right. Well, let's just get going.
I told everybody to go to their collective corners of the house and sit there and stare at the wall until the show was over. So,
thank you, Karen.
Because that's what I do. And my computer fan isn't going. The furnace isn't going. There's nothing happening here.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I know what it is. We need to go through that whole setting thing where you reduce your sensitivity. Okay, we'll just go late if we can't get this that's working properly. We'll just go a little later. You'll get the full show. I really apologize for this. This is again a completely new system. I'm not sure why it's not registering because I'm actually muting you on my end, Karen. So.
Well, apparently you still need that duck then, don't you?
Yeah.
If it doesn't work. But no, my sensitivity is exactly where I left it this afternoon.
You have it on voice activation or push to talk?
Hello. Voice activation.
Hi, Sage. We're just dealing with all kinds of technical issues right at the moment.
I came onto the channel and I heard lots of echoing.
Yeah.
Yep, it's Karen.
A lot of echoing.
It's not me.
It's you, Karen. It is.
How about those little echo reduction and echo removal toggle options? There's echo cancellation and echo reduction in the capture.
Well, this is a bit of software that assumes everybody's wearing headsets.
I am wearing a headset.
She's wearing a headset. Everybody get off her case on the headset issue.
Get off her balls.
The issue's been fixed. She got one.
I'm wearing noise-canceling headphones. The noise cannot be escaping from my headphones and going into my microphone. It's not doing it.
And yet, when you're talking and I'm talking, we're still hearing an echo. So it is your system, unless it's mine.
I'm hearing myself echo. That's the thing. I'm hearing myself echo. That means it's somebody else's.
User was moved out of your channel.
Uh-oh.
Okay. All right. Everybody calm down. Karen,
Yes?
mute yourself because I think you're on continuous. Actually, you know what the problem is? You're on continuous. So you need to move it to voice activation.
I am on voice activation. Voice activation detection.
Maybe threshold's a little too high.
Yeah.
Did you see
because
the little
thing
ball is
that
blinking?
User
always-
entered your channel.
You're always on blue at the moment.
Light blue.
So that means you're continuously broadcasting.
Yeah, there's no noise here.
Yeah. Well, you're picking up us as well. So
I think you have to
Volunteer-
click begin test to see your actual threshold because it won't show you.
No, I'm in the preferences and I've upped my threshold to right in the middle, and it still shows me as light blue.
Well, I'm not echoing as
okay,
much.
wait a second. No, still the echo.
Oh.
Oh well, I guess we'll just have to deal with the echo. All right. So and also we've lost Hannah because her settings suddenly changed and she can't get on at all.
So we
This is going to be really fun. This is going to be a fun evening.
We fixed the audio where the sound is a little bit better, but now it's just, a whole bunch of other things.
Oh
But,
yeah, it's always a can of worms with this. You try to fix something and then the spaghetti falls out the other side of the plate. Or your other
it's falling out of our pockets.
Like eating a taco.
Yeah, it's falling out of our pockets. It's
You're
everywhere.
eating a taco?
Yes, eating tacos is always like, who invented that? Why? How? How can you eat them? It always falls out.
Tacos, you can't explain that.
Okay, guys.
Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah.
I went and did the voice activation test. All of your voices are playing on that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay. Let's have a moment of silence for Karen.
No, but I'm just like, why are your voices playing on that?
But you're saying,
I
why
don't
is
know.
it still?
Why is my voice activation test hearing you guys?
Because it's cunty.
Well, it's not echoing anymore.
What is your playback device?
My what?
Your playback and recording devices.
Yeah, it's fine now, guys. Like, the echo is
I
gone,
can't
so
believe
now we
we
can
have
start.
240 people listening to us.
Oh
just
my god.
dipshits.
Gigantic.
Women and technical difficulties, that's comedy of its own. I
Well,
can see that.
it's like the clown car has disgorged and we're all like bumping
User
into each other.
disconnected from your channel.
I'm still trying to figure out why my voice activation test is hearing you guys when I'm wearing headphones.
I don't know, but everything's fine now. Guys, everything's okay. We can begin. So we can. All right, let's pick up where we left off, because.
No,
User entered your channel.
Our new. Oh yay! Hannah's back. She got it working. Yes. Oh, we're slowly gathering the troops.
That's why we
Okay.
needed that issue so Hannah could join.
Yeah. All right.
The
Karen.
stupid thing is, it
well.
reset a setting to something that it took it out of the default. That like I was going through everything that had any kind of settings in it, and all of my menus that that you could adjust that might have anything to do with sound, and there were settings in the connections menu that were the capture profile and the playback profile were taken out of default.
You know what? This is it's just what happens. This show is sort of weirdly cursed.
Yeah.
Don't say that. You're gonna put a curse on the show, Allison.
You can't shade. It's already freaking cursed.
No, it's
Rachel.
not
How is it
cursed.
gonna
You're
get
jinxing
more
it with
cursed?
your bad juju.
What?
The curse.
Cursor! Stop it!
I don't think it's can get. You know what? I do not think something can get more cursed.
Our show isn't cursed.
accept
We're
that
just on a
analysis.
shoestring budget.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it sounds like we're all ready to go. We're all set. So let us count. Okay, it is 8:12 where I am, which is 9:12 Eastern.
Yeah.
So we got 12 minutes of total shit. We will go over 12 minutes. How's
Okay.
that? Yeah, that's good.
12 more minutes of shit.
All right, let's just pretend the first 12 minutes didn't happen, and we're just going to go forward.
Like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yes, let's just shake the X, and we'll just have a blank canvas. All right, okay, everybody. Shh. Hello, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Tonight's episode is Your Princess is in Another Castle. And yes, we are going to talk about Gamergate and Anita Sarkeesian and other stuff. And Karen, you're echoing again. And
you had one job, Allison.
I can't do anything about Karen.
Well, I apparently have to set the threshold on this thing so high because that's what it is. It's picking up your voices somehow through my headphones.
Okay. Oh, that is definitely cursed.
So now I'm gonna set it so high that I'm gonna have to shout, because that's what I'm gonna have to do.
Okay. Well, then you'll just have to mute, unmute, and we'll deal with it later.
User on your channel started recording.
Hannah, you're recording for some reason. I don't know why. Rachel.
Yes.
Let's go into the first news item.
Okay. Oh, this is a good one. This is gonna be a doozy. Women waiting to use the bathroom is oppression. In a recent article by, I'm gonna butcher this name, Daria Kemali, she demands equity for women in the realm of porcelain. She states that women waiting in lines to use the bathroom is oppressive and fails to realize how utterly ridiculous this statement is. One need only take the location of the restroom into account to see how most of her arguments are complete bullshit. She writes, quote, "Despite years of potty parity laws, women are still forced to stand in lines at malls, schools, stadiums, concerts, fairgrounds, theme parks, and other crowded public spaces. This is frustrating, uncomfortable, and in some circumstances humiliating. It's also a form of discrimination as it disproportionately affects women," unquote. What she fails to understand is that the reason women are waiting in lines to use the restrooms in public spaces, is directly caused by the fact that women are dominating them in great numbers. She argues that because of the existence of urinals, that men are better served than women and have more space to do their business, yet this never seems to help in public areas that men are more likely to dominate, things like sporting events, car shows, and conventions. It is not uncommon to see men also waiting in line to use the restroom in these spaces, and yet Sora Kemali sees fit to make a series of weak arguments for this being oppressive, as if she thinks this will somehow equate to something rational. What she forgets is that public restrooms are not a requirement for all businesses and public venues. They are a service provided for sanitation purposes. They are not required to make that service quick and painless. Only feminists can manage to take a situation where a problem is caused by them dominating a space, and then find a way to say that it's oppression. While it is good to provide public facilities, it isn't sexist to provide equal facilities for both genders. It also isn't sexist when places have issues updating older buildings to have equal restroom facilities. It's like she believes that you can snap your fingers and create a restroom at the will of her own bladder. But then this is why it's nearly impossible to take feminists seriously, because while they could be handling issues that matter, they decide to write dumb articles about how holding in your pee for a bit is patriarchal oppression.
All right.
It is.
You can't make this shit up.
I gotta add something to this. Like, recently we had a really, really bad blackout here. It lasted, 12 hours. And that's pretty bad for where we are situated because it gets down to like negative 40 degrees Celsius. And so if people don't have their heat, they die. They can die.
User in your channel stopped recording.
And when they were restoring power, a man got electrocuted to death in the process of restoring power to our region, which no doubt happens a lot. And this is an issue that feminists have, is that they can't piss when they want to. And I find it mind-boggling that not being able to pee when you want to is considered to be in any way important in a world where men are dying to get people's electricity back on. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me. And I wanted to say that that one of the reasons why there is such a long wait for the bathroom for women is because they want a better service. They want a more private service. If you created like trough-like urinals for women, where you just had the trough, you just had it like long, and you squat over it, you could probably get women in and out of a bathroom as quickly as men. But women prefer, a more private, a more sedate bathroom experience. So they want...
I wouldn't even say it's that. They actually want, I think she's arguing for more stalls, for a larger bathroom capacity. And the thing about it is that even the fact these men have urinals and stuff like that, that actually doesn't really reduce the line. What it seems to me is that the places where there's a long line for the bathroom for women are the ones where women have a tendency to be there more often than men. So you'll see it in situations where it's like a mall, or all of these places where there tend to be women a lot more often than men. So of course men aren't going to be waiting in line. They're not there as often unless they need to be. And yet they want to argue that this is patriarchal oppression when they've given both sexes an equal facility, where they both have, it's an equal size, an equal capacity.
Well, I mean...
Karen, are you trying to speak? Because your mic is muted. That would make it quite difficult.
No, I was not trying to speak. It was muted for a reason.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And someone was trying to speak, and then they cut out. Who was that? I mean, it's in this long list of names. Somebody must have
I think it was Lauren.
You think it was a ghost?
It was Lauren.
It's Lauren.
Lauren. Okay, Lauren, go ahead.
Lauren.
Uh-oh. Have we lost Lauren?
Lauren.
Oh.
Okay, I think your settings are really...
No, wait. Yeah,
Hello?
there we go.
Hello.
Yes.
They're a bit buggy.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I got the bug. It must be in my phone now.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is that, it's such a different process for men and women to go to the bathroom. For men, it's easy. You unzip a zipper, you pull it out, and you go. For women, you have belts, you have buckles, you have a lot of different things that you have to get through to be able to pull your pants down or pull, your whatever down to be able to squat over a toilet. And I'm with you on the whole trough thing. I think if that is a perfect analogy for a woman for a urinal. But then women have periods, and who wants to deal with their period in front of every other woman? It's just not something that women want to do, So there's differences, and you have to understand that. So
I'm waiting for feminists to demand a sink in each stall so that they can deal with their diva cups.
All right. Okay, but just to speak to that, Lauren, I mean, you can still have a stall. Like they could still be a series of stall, because guys, still have to go number 2, and they go into a stall. So can women, and deal with having period.
It's basically boiled down to if women saying, well, because we are using the lion's share of a resource, we have a right to more of it. Yeah. Not so much because of a need, but because they have a right to more of it because they're using more. If it's taking a long time for you to change your pad, there's something wrong. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. It's like changing a freaking Band-Aid, for Pete's sake.
Almost.
Yeah, my boyfriend could totally masturbate in the amount of time it takes me to change a pad. Like he could eat and masturbate in the amount of time it takes me in the bathroom, and then he's good to go for the rest of the day.
It's been like 60 seconds tops, and that's with wrapping and properly disposing and everything. And having cleaned restrooms, I can tell you that most women don't do that. They just rip it off, and some of them stick it to the wall.
Oh yeah, it's really gross.
Really gross.
Anybody
oh my god!
Who's had to clean bathrooms? Like I worked at McDonald's for a while, and I had to clean the bathrooms. people are nastier than you can ever imagine. But, the thing about all this is just, I think the only argument that came close to this, in all of everything, she gave a whole bunch of really bullshit things like, oh, women have more restrictive garments, and she linked to Spanx. You don't have to wear Spanx, lady. That's just to make your ass look good and your legs. You don't have to wear that.
It makes how
dare you blame like men and all this stuff on your personal choices? I mean,
that's also completely ignoring
my latex cap
fathers.
Really hard to get off.
Okay, guys.
Okay,
we're hitting a bit of a traffic jam here. Go ahead, Anna.
The only but I was going to say the only argument she made that held any kind of weight was the fact that they said that the U.S. House of Representatives took a long time before they actually installed a bathroom that was close enough, to the room that women didn't go over in their time, that was the recess times, to get back. I'm like, okay, yeah, but why not just give the women a little bit of extra time then? And give them a little bit of an extra way. If it's all the way across out there, they need to either learn to sprint, or you need to give them maybe, give them it's like 3 minutes if they have to get out there. But the thing about it is that this is, when we talk about buildings that are, government buildings, and it's something like Washington, D.C., these are really old buildings. Okay, they are antiques. You can't just rip things out and redo the plumbing overnight. You got to get all of these different things because you're altering what is a national monument. Okay, you're fucking with something that's been around for years. So there's a whole lot of things that need to go through before you can get a woman's bathroom installed closer. So they're like,
if we're talking about female representatives, though, I mean, they could just as easily take the crap in one of the empty chairs, and no one would know the difference.
That's called legislation.
Okay.
Well, I gotta tell you though, the entire conversations reminded me of Sheryl Sandberg and her book Lean In. She was complaining about going over and being the only woman in, I think, a sales pitch. It was something related to one of the big tech giants. Probably it was either Facebook, if she was still the COO of Facebook, or something else. And she was complaining because she ended up asking the man where the women's restroom was, and the man didn't know, and she considered this a problem. And I was just thinking to myself, why the hell would he know? First of all, I don't think he marked fucking women's restroom on a map and of the building. But even so, I mean, there's also the convention of, well, find the men's restroom or so on, and then look around. I mean, it's not like it's I don't know. It's just the level. I think we're at a point where the complaints are getting so asinine that I'm running out of things to complain about in regards to these complaints. Like it's that point. I just don't know anymore.
It's so dumb. The stupid
restroom
burns.
Space. Man spreading. Restroom space.
Yeah,
male
you know what?
gaze.
You know what I'm gonna say? To all the women who are taking extra space, maybe we need to have a campaign, like for women taking too fucking long in the bathroom. Like, consider all of the other women who are waiting in a long-ass line outside, okay?
Yeah, that was going to be my point. Being in San Francisco, living here now, us was standing. It's kind of a joke, but there's nothing worse than being in...
Hello, Anna?
Uh-oh.
Yes?
Cherry, you're cutting out.
Uh-oh.
You're cutting in and out, so what you're going to have to do is increase the sensitivity of your mic.
Sure thing.
And come back to us. Come back to us, Anna.
Come back to us, Anna.
Yes.
With a cherry on top.
Yeah, with a cherry on
Or just
top.
scream at us.
Okay, yeah, but I know exactly what you're talking about, Rachel.
Yelling.
It's like, it's at the point where the stupid is so stupid you can't muster a goddamn emotion about it anymore. I guess it's like you've become numb to it.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
This thing that is
Excellent.
not really damaging and is largely our own fault. We want to bitch about it, so we're going to call it misogyny and say it's men's fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a point about all that whole thing, and yeah, as I was saying, living in San Francisco, there was the whole city loves standing in lines. It's kind of a joke about that, but there was nothing worse than the line at the pier bathrooms on New Year's Eve last year. It was like when it was 2013 on to 14. That was just insane amount of time for 20, 30 minutes. And yes, if women are taking up a tremendous amount of that, doing whatever the fuck they're doing in there, that is not allowed. They're taking up extra time just because they feel they need to, because they decided to burden themselves with accessories. And I mean, why are we ignoring the fact that some men have children, for instance, babies that they need to dress and do the whole diaper thing? Men need space too. What about men who, let's say, are overweight and have the pants with everything in their pockets? Because that's what men do. They carry stuff in their pockets. And so imagine trying to hold up the pants and the things in the pockets that are heavy. There's just so much that we're not considering that men have to go through. And because men don't whine about it, because they're not the wheel that squeaks loudest, we are ignoring that they have difficulties too that they just put up with. But because women want to be treated like princesses, every single one of them, then we have to somehow have to cater that as a society. I don't think that's okay. And rant.
Well, I'm wondering, what if we did a big change where we installed big ass electromagnets in the ceiling of every women's restroom, so the ones adorned with accessories could turn it on and slap against the ceiling, and then they could just pull their pants or skirts down or whatever without any more removal of accessories, and then they could do something entirely graphic that way, and at least it'd be quick, but it'd be funny too.
It's hilarious.
It's assisting them.
You know, honestly, what takes women a lot of time in the restroom has a lot of times has nothing to do with function. Women go in there to gossip and bitch and complain, and they continue to do that while they're in the stalls. They continue to do that, and it takes them longer to get stuff done because they're thinking about what they're saying instead of what they're doing. And then before they come out of the stall, you can't just, pull your clothes back up and come out of the stall, right? You have to look perfect so all the other women won't judge the way you look when you come out of the stall. I've seen this happen where I've had friends like, how the hell is, what's taking you so long in there? And you can see all this movement in the little cracks. There's like, it blocks the light, it doesn't block the light, it blocks the light, it doesn't block the light. And you're like, what the heck are you doing in there? So you look, and there she is, straightening her jacket and straightening her skirt. It's like, do that when you come out. Somebody's waiting to go in there, but it's vanity and socialization that keeps women in the restroom longer than men.
Yeah.
I feel bad.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I feel bad when I take extra time because I'm pee shy.
But men have that problem too.
Yeah, urinals. No one's happy about that. I mean, it's kind of a game that you don't want to stand in the next to urinal next to. If there's an option, if you've got an option, you stand at the urinal furthest away. Yeah. And it's a game in that the loser is the person that is forced to stand next to another guy. So it's a bit like chess, you go in, if you're the second person there, you can go to the furthest urinal from him. The next one, if there's 5, then he can go in the middle, but the guy after that, he's the loser, he's got to go next to another guy. Don't like urinals. None of us like urinals. Yeah. We prefer to go to the cubicle if the option is to stand next to another guy.
Well, that's what I was getting at. I mean, you don't like urinals, you prefer the privacy, you prefer to take your time, but you don't. And therefore you get the benefit of having a shorter line. What women are wanting, and Hannah put this more succinctly than myself, they are wanting more resources, and they're using the only metric that they can to make themselves out to be a victim to justify getting more resources. Why they should have the ability to go in and out of a bathroom at the same amount of time as a man, which they don't, because they don't do that. They don't go out in and out. They have not prioritized time over their personal comfort and vanity and privacy. They want more service for less, essentially. And like I said, they've reduced themselves down to the one area where they could be seen as a victim, which is the wait in the bathroom, in order to justify getting better treatment than men overall, which really, that sort of sums it up.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to the next chat item?
Oh gosh, this is gonna be interesting, I think.
Let's wood chipper through this.
I summarized this one because There's so much here. We could just talk extensively about this, even though it's going to be very short. Intel teams up with Anita Sarkeesian and IDGA.
God damn it!
I think that was it. It was like I think it's IDGI. Okay. Intel announced this week that they would be dumping $300 million into a campaign to diversify their company by 2020. This was an obvious stab at Gamergate after they managed to get Intel to pull their ads from Gamasutra. In one of the worst moves that they could make, Intel ads are back on the publication. Far worse, the company plans to fund both Anita Sarkeesian and IGDA. Sorry, it was IGDA. With the staff of Feminist Frequency going full Macintosh on Twitter, and IGDA being deeply embroiled in issues concerning their third-party Gamergate blockbot, this promises to be the business equivalent of shooting themselves in the foot. But then, this was very much a PR battle, with many of the anti-Gamergate supporters being PR professionals themselves. It's easy to see how such a campaign came to be, with these individuals pushing the idea that Gamergate and Not Your Shield are anti-woman and anti-diversity. Only time will tell how much of a blow Intel will take as a result of this decision. Shit.
Yeah, I think this is really an Al Sharpton moment for Anita Sarkeesian. This is the moment where she is the political correctness mafia going in and saying, well, if you don't buy our insurance, your business, something bad could happen to your business. Your consumer base could burn
User
down.
Disconnected from your channel.
PR. You really need to
User
contract
entered your
with
channel.
us in order to. Sorry, I keep hearing messages on here. But yeah, you really need to contract with us in order to avoid that. And honestly, with feminists being so established to the point where they are part of the political establishment in the United States, I'm quite sure that there was probably legal pressure too. Threats of lawsuits, threats of other actions, threats of inordinate and expensive scrutiny. Because even if nothing is found, just the process of being scrutinized can be expensive for a business, and very, very difficult for the people who work for the business to deal with as well. So I'm sure that they have faced a great deal of sort of a blackmail type pressure, and they gave in. It doesn't excuse partnering with them, and I think they should be just as much pressured to stop. But I'm certain that this is a result of pressures being exercised.
And this really is a PR battle, because you think about a lot of these players, you've got Silver String, you've got, I think it was Maya Kramer, and you've got Leigh Alexander. All of these people are PR folks. All of these things that are the real problems, where a lot of the collusion has taken place, is with the public relations companies, these ones who have been working for the gaming press. And this really, it stinks of a PR move, because they are trying to appear politically correct. They're trying to appear to be in support of diversity, and trying to make the statement that Gamergate is anti-diversity and anti-woman, and that they want to be the exact opposite. I mean, basically what you have here is Leigh Alexander begging Intel to come back and trying to, make everything okay. But the truth of the matter is that Anita Sarkeesian and, Jonathan McIntosh and these folks with Feminist Frequency, they are an anti-capitalist company. They have made several anti-capitalist comments, and you get the feeling that they are even possibly anti-Israel. And that presents a problem, because Intel, at least one of their main headquarters, is in Israel. These are folks that are more likely to side with Islam on things just because they happen to be, in their mind, a racial minority and not a religion. It gets pretty ridiculous. And the thing with the blockbot is, I don't know if many of you understand about the anti-Gamergate blockbot and what's been going on with all of that. But basically, what it will do is it will block certain specific people on their blacklist. And if you are friends, or you're following certain people on Twitter, these specific people on the blacklist, you can also be blocked as well. So what's happened is you've had situations where you have notable celebrities, or you've got, KFC, the franchise being blocked on the Blockbot, and even I think an IGDA representative from Puerto Rico being blocked on the Blockbot. This is a PR nightmare, and they've given into pressure. It's not going to go well for them.
I recently had an exchange with Hertz, the people who rent out cars, and they followed me for some reason, and then I tweeted at them, you probably shouldn't follow me because you're going to end up getting blocked by the anti-gamergaters, and it's by the Blockbot. So it's really funny.
You probably had to explain to them what that was and everything, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I told them, and I said, because I was a little bit pissed at them, so I was just like, you know what, I'll tell you not to follow me, but that's it. I'm not going to explain why. Just don't follow me.
Honestly, we should just start following all of the anti-gamergaters and just
block each other.
Completely screw it up so that they can't. And the thing about it is they've got certain people whitelisted, so it's not going to matter. But if you do the minor ones, that'll be enough. And you do enough of them, it'll screw everything up. Because
what you do is create a bunch of sock puppet accounts. Follow the literally who's and their followers, and then follow your original account so that your sock puppet gets block-botted and everyone that they're following gets block-botted. That would do the trick. That way, if they've got your original account blocked, they'll still get tackled by the block bot because you'll connect them to it. It's just degrees of separation.
And you've got a lot of things that are going on right now. This is the larger picture, and one of the things that's come up since Gamergate, or at least certain portions of Gamergate, have been targeting Intel, or I wouldn't say necessarily attacking. I'd say that they are what they've been doing is they've been posting tweets that have been negatively speaking about men and masculinity and being anti-capitalist and all of these really, really weird things, just incredibly bizarre stuff, and placing the Intel logo on it. And when that started happening, 8chan began being DDoSed. It had been DDoSed for almost 36 hours. It's almost 2 days, and that's a crazy coordinated attack for the anti-Gamergate side, and it was just relentless. It was just completely ridiculous. So it's very obvious that they want to silence people on this topic. They want them to go away and not point these things out and sweep everything that these people have done under the rug. And a lot of feminist frequencies practices are incredibly shady. I remember looking at their IRS paperwork, which was obtained legally through the Freedom of Information Act. And, there's a reason why people are reporting them to the IRS. Because you could look at that, even a skilled business person would look at that and say, this is incredibly questionable. You've written the same number in every slot here, and you've mentioned that you made no money when it's obvious that is incorrect.
Yeah.
It's a terrible move for Intel. And
really
it's incredibly unfortunate.
Well, and what they're going to end up discovering is that they're kind of between a rock and a hard place if public relations with social justice warriors is important to them, because they're consumers. People that are actually spending money on their products are largely not social justice warriors.
Yeah.
But people who are more involved in the tech industry, or people who are more involved in hobbies that make use of products created by the tech industry. And
I wouldn't.
There's not going to be quite that much. I mean, everybody uses computers, but there's not going to be quite that much interest in some of their better products from the people that they're pandering to, and it's going to be, with Gamergate, the same power that helped to encourage changes in journalism is going to be what it takes to encourage changes in Intel's attitude. They're going to have to speak with their wallets.
Well, I'm not sure that the same amount of power, though, because the Intel material pool is also purchased by computer manufacturers such as Apple and Dell and all that. And people who buy from those brands don't often think about the fact that they're buying an Intel chipset. So they would end up, Intel still makes money, just maybe not directly through the consumer by people buying their own processors and custom builds, but they still, have the security of purchases from the larger firms. So I think that a lot of the consumer power would probably be from similar tactics, such as attacking, say, ad revenue or just other ways that these big companies make money, because that's what the feminists did, right? Like when you had Wham, Women Action in the Media, they straight up went for ad revenue for Facebook in order to get their way. And I do see more in the future consumers taking on more coordinated efforts in order to, I guess, retaliate against these larger firms. But the voting with the wallets thing, I think, is more important when businesses have those bottom level consumers, the consumers on the ground, as their majority market share. But with the case of Intel, they have so much more than that.
I think with the other companies that purchase Intel products, that's where the email campaign is going to have to come in too. Consumers are going to have to let companies like Apple know that we won't want them to ally themselves with a company that is supporting and people who practice behaviors that Apple has actually come out against. Apple has supported the same, if I understand correctly anyway, I may be wrong about this, but Apple has the same anti-bullying initiative that Adobe did. I'm sure I remember seeing their logo on that.
Well, hopefully so. I've always understood Apple to be very, how should I say, formal, and they pander a lot to a very specific user base, right? That's kind of been Apple's big thing. I don't know. I mean, Apple's always had that kind of hipster image about it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up following the popular crowd if it meant getting that hipster dollar even more. But I don't know. I think time will tell on that one.
That is true. Although the majority of people that I've worked with in Apple computers have all been publishers for the most part, and there's a pretty stark division in publishing. There's a lot of social justice warriors in journalism and in other areas of publishing, but the people who are not usually are not for very solid reasons, and usually because they have been all their lives mistreated by the people who are. So it's it depends on, I guess, which one of those two is the majority within that community versus which one's the loudest.
Yeah. Okay, I just got a message in from Nephenor, our alien overlord. He's beamed it into my brain via thought transference probe.
He's always probing you, Allison.
Yeah, well, he's probing my lobes. So, this is the message from Nephenor. Part 1. The recent attack of 8chan, which has now been confirmed to be directed by @SpaceCatGal, as well as recent events involving Patreon. Part 2. Have forced certain parties to press legal charges against 2 parties, one of which being Brianna Wu. Part 3. For legal reasons, I cannot mention the second party involved, but most of you will know that soon enough. Part 4. I will be saying more, but due to legal ramifications, I'm waiting until I know for certain what I can say and can't say. Part 5. Just to clear this so there is no confusion, 2 parties are having legal actions made against them. Final part. So there are 3 parties involved entirely, just so there is no confusion. Mark Taylor at The Legend of Maku. He's this is what Nephenor, the message that Nephenor has sent.
I've definitely read those, and we have not confirmed whether or not this is legitimate, but I think it makes complete sense because one of the things that has been confirmed, or at least in terms of what has been admitted to, is you have at least people like Zoe Quinn and Brianna Wu admitting that they have met with people from Patreon, which is a direct conflict of interest, to try and rework the terms of service policy so that they omit specific people from that service, which is complete bullshit, because you have 8chan, you have Frederick Brennan, and he removed 8chan being directly funded from that, and he moved, I think, to GrataPay and Bitcoin. And so he just decided he was going to make cat videos just kind of to spite them. Just he's like, just to fund his cat being taken care of and paying the aid so that his cat is well fed and the litter box is cleaned. But and the thing is that if we're going to do that, you could easily apply that to a ton of people on Patreon who have supported things in the past that are ridiculous. Rebecca Watson, for one, has a post, from what I understand, on her blog directly talking about not only has she doxed someone and doxed people in the past, but that she is totally fine with doxing because it helps her and people like her to push their narrative around, to be able to shame people that they see fit.
Regarding those tweets, I saw those as well. I also saw another tweet. I can't remember the exact wording of it, and I can't seem to find it now. But it was
it's probably Dan Olson.
Basically said that, yeah, he was going to have confirmation tomorrow. It said Friday.
Yeah, Dan Olson also came forward saying that he was taking some responsibility for the DDoS attacks. And for those of you who don't know, this is Foldable Human. He's that guy who made that crazy video with his with his little paper-looking puppet. He is a larger extension. Well, he's an extension of the channel Awesome brand. And those people, for a while, they're that guy with the glasses, and some of you guys might be familiar with those guys. But they also have a history of being very, very social justice orientated, which is kind of unfortunate because a lot of their early work was kind of, it was somewhat entertaining and there was room for improvement. It's kind of gone to shit now, but it's something, that's the reason why a lot of them have come forward and said that they were anti-gamergate or saying that they were taking a neutral position when you know that they're actually more anti than anything. That's why you have people like Angry Joe coming out and saying that they're anti-gamergate, Todd in the Shadows, and Nostalgia Chick. Like, I'm blocked by Nostalgia Chick, and I've never spoken to her, ever. Lindsay Ellis has me blocked on Twitter. That's so fucking surreal to me. But yeah.
And it says something is going to happen on Friday. Something is going to be released Friday.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we should wait for Friday, I guess.
We'll all, keep ourselves watching that. But it makes sense that Brianna Wu would be facing legal action as a result of this, because if you are attacking somebody's livelihood because you don't agree with their position on Gamergate, that's complete bullshit.
If that doesn't constitute harassment, then certainly saying hello to someone on the street pales in comparison to having someone track down your source of income and try to get rid of it. It's amazing the disconnect that feminists have.
And people like Brianna Wu who do this, they get to keep their Patreon account. People who are involved in a direct conflict of interest where they are targeting specific people for their position, stating that they are taking a certain position on whatever that they don't approve of. I mean, when Frederick Brennan, say what you will about the position on child porn or whatever, which was actually found to be completely unfounded, as mentioned by Dan Olson, who is the guy who made that article in question stating that 8chan was posting child porn. But here's the thing. He had 20 reports put up against him, and all of them, he was exonerated from all of them. They were finding that the claims were completely unfounded, meaning that the content that he was speaking about was not even considered to be child pornography by the Canadian government, which has very strict rules about this from what I understand. So all of that was completely bogus. So say what you will about the stance on that. That's another discussion for another day. But once he removed the 8chan portion of that, what it really came down to was just trying to push him out to make a statement. And that's what this really comes down to. But, yeah.
Well, and honestly, I think 8chan is under attack for a different reason as well. You remember at the very beginning of all of this, 4chan was one of the sites that censored discussion. It was a forum that they had control of. 8chan is a forum that they don't control. It's a forum that is open and free, and people will discuss what they want to discuss. That is a problem for social justice warriors. If they cannot censor speech on a given forum, they will attack that forum. They know they can't scare him. They can't use Women Action Media to scare him into changing his administrative policies. Well, his they're going to try to shut down his site.
His entire policy is that if it's not illegal, it can be posted, right?
Right.
The people who own the boards to decide whether there are any other rules they want, but he was not going to bow to kind of BS about, well, we want this removed because, doxing is wrong. It's not illegal, but it's wrong, right? And then he's just like, then they're just going to come and ask me to censor more stuff and remove more stuff, and I'm not going to do it, right? And that's an extremely it's a principled position to take. It really is. It's like, no, I'm not going to start down the slippery slope. If it's not illegal, it can stay. And I will not, as an administrator, condemn the posting of anything that is not in violation of this policy, right? So, I mean, and he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and there's got to be, is this the last freaking place on the internet where you can actually say almost whatever you want?
Well, the Chans have a tendency to have that policy in place, but often what will happen is that admins will come in who are more social justice minded, or basically more like Nazis, and then they'll come in and then they'll decide, oh, well, you can't post these things anymore, or you can't post this anymore.
Well, but the nice thing about 8chan is that it's owned by him, right? So it's just him. And all of the boards, they're not his. They go to whoever created, right? Those people can have whatever rules they want. So anybody can go onto 8chan and make a board and have it be a complete free-for-all, and as long as they're not posting anything illegal, he's not going to do anything about it, right?
Yeah.
There's no way that it's not like the Reddit's board of directors where one of them is banging some freaking person from shit Reddit says, right? He's the one. He is 8chan. Right? And he's not going to do that. He's just not, right? And if social justice warriors want to have boards on 8chan where they have their own fucking little echo chamber where, I think, oh, wow, if more than half the users have been banned on a board, right, then he'll kill the board. Yeah. That's one of his policies.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it's not that they want to have a space to talk. They have all kinds of spaces to talk. They have all of 4chan. They could create their own chan if they wanted to. That isn't their problem. Actually, it is that they want other people to not be able to talk.
You can't create your own chans you actually can't create your own boards on 4chan. That's the thing about 8chan that is so great, is you can create your own boards.
Okay,
4chan has whatever boards Moot fucking decides upon, and
but they can create their own discussions.
Yeah, they can create their own discussions, they can create their own threads, but they can't create their own boards.
Right, but they can also create their own site.
Yeah, they can create their own chan if they want to.
They don't have to be on 4chan or 8chan. They can be somewhere else. And, of course, they've got Twitter, and they've got Reddit, and they've got Facebook, and there are plenty of places where they can talk. That's not their problem. They don't have a limit to their speech. what their problem is that they want to limit other people's speech.
Well, of course,
they don't
that's
like
what they want.
8chan because it is a place where other people's speech is not limited in the way that they want speech to be limited. That is why they're attacking.
And speaking of that,
and if they want something to not be discussed, they can't shut it down there.
And speaking of that, I think that actually leads really well into the next topic, which, we can continue talking about how this damseling on their end, the literally woos, how they continuously misdirect right after. But this is going to play directly into what we've been discussing so far. Wikipedia bans veteran editor for off-site Gamergate support. Former Wikipedia editor Alex Hinckley found himself banned from the online encyclopedia after asking questions about the current state of Anita Sarkeesian's Wikipedia page in regards to her prior work history with Bart Baggett, a known con artist and member of the pickup artist community. Alex Hinckley was an experienced editor with rollback privileges, who'd been a member of the community since 2006, but due to his involvement with Gamergate, he was being accused of making, quote, disruptive edits to a talk page, a claim that was unfounded, as he'd only made a note on the article talk page asking as to whether there should be an edit to include that information. This came after his question was censored, and his cited sources were removed by another editor. When the editor continued to censor him, he contacted admins, hoping for help, only to find that the admin agreed with the editor who had been censoring him. The admin called it repeated policy violations of a biography article, even though no edits had been made to the article itself. At first, he received a 2-week suspension and a revoking of his rollback rights. But it only got worse as the admin began posting pro-Gamergate things that Alex had posted on Twitter, something against Wikipedia's policies. Alex was barred from editing anything remotely related to Gamergate, which he attempted to appeal on the grounds that he'd never made a single edit to the Gamergate page or the page on Anita. Not long after, his appeal was deleted, and he was banned from editing any articles on Wikipedia at all. It seems that there are no links that anti-Gamergate bullies won't go to in order to suppress certain information. And the thing to note about this is that one of the things about his appeal that was really weird is that usually all of these differing changes that are made to a talk page or an article are recorded. And, even if they are minor, all of the ones concerning him were deleted. And usually when you enter the appeal process for Wikipedia, you cite those differentials, those diffs, as he called it, to show that you hadn't acted in a way that was out of line. All of those were missing. All of them had been deleted. So he had nothing to present to other people. And the person who had been censoring him was another editor. And they kept deleting his cited sources, which were things like her old site Neon and Chrome, which cited that she had been working for Bart Baggett in all of these shifty places and had no issue doing that. It's he cited some pretty decent sources from what I understand. They were foolproof. I mean, when she's citing it on her own old website on the Wayback Machine, that's some pretty damning evidence.
Yeah.
And they went out of their way to suppress it by outing him for who he was and making it known that he was pro-Gamergate, as if that had anything to do with whether or not he should be able to edit on Wikipedia as a whole.
Basically an ad hom.
And they don't give everybody rollback privileges. He had been around since 2006 and a trusted editor. They don't give these kinds of privileges to anybody, but he had them, and they were taken away as a result of questioning these things and questioning things about whether or not it should even be discussed. This wasn't even like it was a discussion. The possibility of a discussion was censored.
Censorship promote a narrative, and then erasure of the censorship effort to hide the fact that they were censoring to promote a narrative. Basically what was going on there.
It's like 1984, isn't it? It's like the mini true where Winston works and he has to remove information from previous newspapers so that the story represents what the party says.
Yeah.
Wikipedia is quite powerful like that because that's most people's first source of information when they're trying to prove a fact or anything. So they can control what is put on there. That's
one of the things that's about Wikipedia is there are some articles that are hotly contested that continuously get edited, and there's a battleground over it. And usually it has to do with social justice things like feminism, the definition of feminism, what to leave in on the feminism page, cultural also, Marxism, things like that.
That is happening also in some of the branches of physics, actually, of special relativity related physics, where there's some contested information that there's been a dogma grown around that it gets edited out and buried because the majority does not want it to see the light as well. So the same kind of dogmatic behavior as with feminism.
Yeah, it just gets really, really ridiculous. And I think it's important that people understand that when social justice creeps into these spaces, they start shutting down a free flow of information. It's totally fine to have opinions, but one of the things about when you're being a resource is that you need to mention that there are different opinions about it and leave it to the discretion of the researcher, the person who is, trying to read this for more information to investigate.
Yeah, actually, this is an ongoing thing in a lot of areas, but particularly the editor involved, that the one that was doing the censoring, Kevin Gorman is his name. He led an ongoing long-term attack on Wikipedia articles to do with men's rights and has defended feminism from any critical examination whatsoever on Wikipedia. So any information that portrays feminism in a bad light, regardless of the credibility of the source, he will protect articles that have anything to do with feminism or women
disconnected from your channel.
Having those sources included. At the same time, with the men's rights article on Wikipedia, that article is controlled by social justice warriors and has been controlled by social justice warriors. Gorman was quite instrumental in keeping it that way. He worked very hard to block anyone involved in the men's rights community from submitting or information or editing the article or contributing to the article in any way, shape, or form. And this was actually after someone from Wikipedia visited reddit.com, the men's rights subreddit, to ask MRAs to contribute. And then months and months later, we got another editor who said, "Why aren't you guys contributing to the men's rights article?" And when we explained to him why we weren't contributing to the men's rights article, he accused us all of having a no-can-do attitude. And how come you guys are so negative about this and everything? Well, hell, we got shut out. Everybody that went in there to talk, everybody. That if he could trace them back, and he did, he traced people's usernames back to Reddit's men's rights. If he could trace them back to that, he was like, nope, don't qualify. Whatever you say is automatically negated by the fact you're a men's rights Redditor. It was completely surreal. And about that same time, we saw Project Feminism crop up. Wikipedia Project Feminism is a project to essentially to insert feminism into articles that are not necessarily feminist related, and to protect articles that are feminist related from having any kind of negative portrayal of feminism. I think it gives a much nicer description of itself in its own description. But that is what they basically do.
And
it's ridiculous.
And you do it for college credit. You get college credits for doing this. It's
what the fuck?
I kid you not.
I actually have gone through and looked at some of the talk pages from that project. Most of it is just garbage, and a lot of it is buzzwords and psychobabble. Like, you'll have a whole page where you can't actually get any meaning out of what's said. It's all buzzwords and psychobabble. They could, if you took out the conjunctions in the articles, all that's left is, male gaze patriarchy, rape culture, no actual discussion. But there was one that I ended up having to screen cap and make fun of because it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. I can't accept that. It's too fact-based. We got to change this, guys. It's too fact-based.
Too fact-based.
Yeah, not enough feels. Not enough feels.
I got to tell you, folks, that that is not to the listeners. That is not hyperbole. I've even had a social justice person come over to a Zen Men meeting, and they ended up making that same kind of argument that if you end up taking a too logical or too factual approach to the things that you're saying, then you're not having the empathy necessary in order to really have a solid grasp on ethics. You can't make this shit up.
No,
it's
you
basically
really can't.
postmodern has gone insane and rampaging through everything, where everybody's opinion is as valid as everyone else's, and we don't need facts. We just have opinion, and it's same thing that's kind of sort of happening with physics and in our social landscape as well.
Well, yeah. What drove me crazy, because I was watching just this afternoon, I was watching David Pakman's interview with Frederick H.N.
Frederick Brennan.
That's
how else?
Yes, and he said, Frederick said, well, I'm not really that concerned about her being doxxed, right? Like, I'm just not. I've been doxxed 30 times, nothing happened to me. And David Pakman's like, well, okay, well, you can say that, but you can't say that, that nothing's going to happen to Brianna Wu. And no, I can say that nothing's going, just because she's scared doesn't mean she's in danger, right? This is what prioritizing feelings over facts is all about, right? She's in danger because she's scared.
Not even all that scared, though, if you really think about it, though, because she never actually really left her house. She made the argument, oh, well, you see, a hotel room doesn't make the best backdrop, so I'm gonna go back to my house where I have my nice office with all of the nice equipment inside, and posters where I have blown up characters of from my game on a big poster on my wall, and that makes a better backdrop for people, for the media that's coming to cover me. I'm certainly not going to get attacked while media is there.
Yeah, and yet she can't. And yet
ridiculous.
She can't find her hairbrush. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you have all this time to go back to your house and you're primping and you've got a nice backdrop, but you're like, yeah, I'm not gonna take a brush to my hair. I'm not going to do that.
That could be for effect as well.
She's just
so distressed.
It's just so completely ridiculous, that argument. Oh, it didn't make a nice enough backdrop. I thought you were afraid for your life.
Yeah.
I thought you were afraid that someone was going to bomb your house or shoot you or something. And I can
Rachel,
tell
you're just too fact-based.
Yeah, I mean, and I can tell you, media being there is really not going to persuade somebody who really wants to kill you from coming inside the building. They give no fucks. They will shoot you, if they feel like it. It's completely ridiculous. Her behavior is not consistent with somebody who is afraid for their life, because people who are afraid for their lives don't just suddenly jump on television to say how afraid for their life they are.
Yeah.
They don't do that shit. Instead, they let this stuff blow over. They let the FBI
lay low
or whoever come in and do their investigation. They let that person do that.
Yeah.
That's not what happened here at all. And I really have no sympathy for Brianna Wu, because what she's done thus far, we know that she knew people from Recode and in the media who got her all of these nice little interviews, and that she inserted herself into this by basically poking the hornet's nest. She posted a whole bunch of memes trying to make fun of 8chan and trying to basically, call them whiny piss babies and shit like that. Maybe not in those words, but that's basically what she was trying to do. She was trying to say, ha ha, you guys are nothing. And then she got surprised when people started saying, that's not okay. And she did receive, some death threats and stuff like that, but that's not necessarily related to Gamergate. And we don't know who did that. We really don't.
And that's a risk of being on the internet at this point.
Yeah. And how many people have we known thus far that have been doxxed and harassed and kicked out of their jobs, basically fired because of stuff related to Gamergate? I know of several.
Let's look at who's been fired and crying on open air, and let's look at who has been given jobs and contracts as a result of this. Who is sitting back and counting the money, and who is on their knees at the end of this? And then we know who actually has the power.
Yeah, we know who's actually afraid for their lives and who's being bullied into submission, and who is doing this for profit, for PR. This is really what it is.
They'd be doing more. If they could get away with it publicly, which they can't. They have power, but they want more. And I can tell you this because in history, it's been far more dramatic even than it is now. Today, you have private citizens doing it. Today, you have private citizens doxing people, and you have private citizens writing to people's employers and creating such a nuisance for the employer that the employer fires the employee. And you have people threatening people's houses. And currently, if those people show up at your house, you do have the recourse of calling the cops and pressing charges and everything. But if you look back at, say, communist Russia, where you had to register your typewriter, and if you wrote the wrong thing, you could be in legal trouble at the very least, and you could even be shot for it. There were people resisting the tyrannical government who had illegal typewriters on which they typed information related to resisting that government and passed it around. Secret newspapers. That
user
in order to understand exactly how malicious and malevolent this type of censorship really can be, you really have to go back and look at circumstances like that, circumstances where you could be shot for saying the wrong thing, not by your neighbor, but by your government. That is what they're striving for.
This is why I so much enjoy listening to Lucien Valsen and his perspective on feminism and the situation in Europe and elsewhere in the world, is because he lived through the tail end of communist totalitarianism, and I had the pleasure and the honor of speaking at an event in Edmonton here last year, where a man from the former Yugoslavia, I believe, was in attendance, and he had some very, very interesting insights to add to the collective conversation there, as far as just exactly what it takes. All it takes is 10% of people who have power. If 10% of your people buy into something and they have positions of power, right? Because that's all it took with the Nazis, right? The Nazis had popular support initially, sorta, right? Once they started getting really hinky.
Well, yeah, after the burning of the Reichstag especially, though, they had all this nationalist support, kind of similar to what happened to our nation after 9/11, where everyone just patriots and flags and
Yes, and then things, when the whole, rounding up the Jews and sending them off to the ovens started happening, people started to go, and 90% of people in Germany were like, yeah, no, I'm not, this doesn't seem like it, I didn't really bargain on this. They did not support the Nazis. All it took was 10%.
Yeah.
All it took was 10%, as long as the other 90% were prevented from speaking.
Yeah, as long as the other 90% can be silenced and made to feel fear.
Okay, and speaking of perspectives, Rory has joined us, and
Hi, Rory.
Yeah. He's come back to us.
Welcome, Buttermancer.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi. And what you go ahead and start talking about what you wanted to say.
So you guys were speaking. I'm sorry for coming in late. I just got home, and you were talking about the doxing and the threats. I myself has been dealing with some of those ever since this last weekend, Sunday specifically. Basically, I took up reins to help the site, the Ralph Retort, which is mostly, it's Gamergate related, very tabloidish, but the Ralph, as much as an ass he can be, I consider him a friend of mine. And I really should have known what I was going to be in for, because on the night before, on Saturday, I was just having a good night. I was playing my Nintendo Wii with my niece, teaching her to play Smash Brothers. Lo and behold, I get woken up at really early in the morning. I could barely tell. We were up playing till 3 a.m. and the first words that I hear coming out of my cell phone was, stop helping the Ralph or I'm going to slit your throat.
Holy shit.
Jeez.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
And
that's not good. That's that's
did you file a police report?
Bad.
I did. I filed police reports and such on their Google number, or the Google voice numbers, so I don't know what's going to come of it. I really don't care that I've been doxxed. I mean, if someone's seriously going to come after me for, helping, at least, even though it's not like the most straight line news area that Gamergate or anti-SJW or whatever you want it to be side has, it's still a voice, and any voice that really can be listen to, any type of news that can come out to help, put things into perspective, I'm going to be there for. He needed help. His site got taken down. I took up the reins as quick as I could. And lo and behold, right when he started posting the stuff about Sarah Butts and Randy Harper, a lot more, because these guys knew that they couldn't get to him. So I guess they just decided, what's the next best thing? Oh, he publicly thanked this person, and this person's been helping him, and said online he's going to help him. Who is this person? And I'm not really keeping a secret of who I am. I really don't care. I mean, the entire ordeal just pisses me off more and more. I wanted to back out slightly from Gamergate and just take more of a background role. It was kind of depressing, but at this point in time, I'm just starting to get more and more angry, and I know a lot more of us are.
Yeah, it's like journalists, when you get a threat, you're on the right track. You're like, all right, now you're just making an enemy.
Yeah,
But before we continue, could you give us a little bit of background on Sarah Butts? And
I can definitely do that as well.
Somebody do that, because I don't like there's people who don't know.
SRH Butts is
like me. I'm a complete noob.
If I'm not mistaken, that was the trans woman who did I believe she coded the block bot, right?
No. She has been sort of a thorn in the side of Gamergaters for a while there. She's doxed a lot of people. She's attacked a lot of people. She has stalked people. And she does things like she baits people and harasses them until they say something that she can say is harassment. And then she reports them for harassment.
So she's a troll.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know what her
troll. She's not just an irritating troll. She's a troll that does damage.
Yeah, I didn't know the extent of why she was really relevant, but I do know what a lot of the controversy is, and that really ties back into a lot of the hypocrisy, which was, first off, 8chan was coming under fire for the belief that they were pro pedophiles and pro child pornography, where the truth of the matter is that Sarah Butts happens to be a pedophile and has expressed openly when she's amongst friends that she is not only interested in young kids and fantasizes about that, but that she's also interested in bestiality. And while being that isn't on its own a crime, it's a massive bit of hypocrisy to make the argument hey, look at all these horrible pedophiles over here, and while at the same time, fantasizing and glorifying that same thing.
Yeah. This is a situation of not just hypocrisy, but hypocrisy with damage.
Yeah.
And it's she's not just pointing the finger; she's pointing the finger and doing damage where she has engaged in the same behaviors. And of course, she was. If I understand correctly, see, there's an Encyclopedia Dramatica page on her, on Sarah Butts, which at the top of the page. No, it's not at the top of the page. But there is a discussion on this page explaining a little bit of her involvement with the 4chan thing and everything. Have it open, and I'm not. I read it the other day just to sort of catch up on the parts that I've missed because of working 2 jobs. But honestly, I have stayed clear of butts just because trolls are it's very unproductive to engage trolls.
Yeah.
It doesn't do you any good. The only time that it's worth engaging is if people are buying what the troll is posting, and you can persuade those people with facts and information. Otherwise, it's best to avoid trolls. But they're actually rallying around. This is the thing. Anti-gamergate is actually rallying around Sarah Butts with a hashtag, and even with changing some of their usernames on Twitter. The hashtag is I stand with Sarah, or I stand with Butts.
They just can't think of anything original, can they?
No, they can't be original. That's asking way too much.
They're showing solidarity for a pedophile. While openly
and a rape liar,
non-offending.
Rachel, let Hannah finish. Come on, guys.
Sorry,
be nice. Nice.
But the hashtag is I stand with Butts, and they're basically they know that the information has come out that she's a pedophile. The information has come out that she has claimed to have molested her dog. But they're still supporting her with this hashtag, and with actually putting either SRH or Butts in there. Like, we have Shaun of Butts instead of Shaun of the Dead, and Freebased Girl. I think that's it's FreeBSD. I'm assuming it's free-based. Maybe that's BSD. Probably because I think she's a druggie. I mean, there might be there might be a different meaning, but it's free BDS girl. Or BSD girl. She's the one that actually wrote the blog. She changed her name to RLH Butts. So I mean that is there, and on the page there is a heading. Butts hates 8chan but loves pedophiles. If you don't know the whole story on the 8chan thing, that is the heading to go down and read. And it just basically explains her involvement. And I mean, it actually got to the point where Gamergaters sort of discovered that she takes the bait pretty easily and said completely ridiculous things to get her to copy them and repost them as gotcha moments and everything. So this person has made herself a ridiculous figure in Gamergate, but she's also made herself a danger to other people. And I think that if that many of them are standing up for her, that many of them in Anti-Gamergate are standing up for her, that kind of explains the doxing and the attacks and everything.
Yeah, there's so many literally who's in all of this stuff for I think anybody to really care as much about. They all start to look the same after a while, and they all just seem to be this horde of horrible individuals. The more that we learn about the prominent members, okay, there are probably some anti-Gamergaters who are just misinformed about this stuff and just care about women and minorities and stuff like that. That's they probably are out there and misinformed or whatever. But the prominent members, the people who are really hardcore, the more we learn about them, the more we learn these people are just horrible individuals. Just like the worst of the worst. But then it kind of makes sense because it's like they're motivated by their own guilt. Like whether they're like a racist or a sexist or they've engaged in horrible stuff, they harbor some kind of weird guilt, and then they form some kind of weird messiah complex that comes out of, no longer being an asshole. In their eyes. I don't know.
All right. Well, Mean Gene is pointing out that FreeBSD is a Linux distribution. I honestly didn't want to give her that much credit, and I'm very, very I can't say I'm totally unfamiliar with Linux, but I'm not a programmer. I'm not familiar enough to have known that. But I've had that pointed out to me before, and it's probably quite correct. That's probably the real reason why she's using it. It's just the woman is so nuts. You just want to. Personally, I just don't want to give her that much credit. But you're probably right.
Well, she doesn't really have that much credit to begin with. I think some of the people who actually do code have looked at the Blockbot and have said that it's so buggy and poorly coded that is why there's so many issues with the way that it works, and the fact that there's totally innocent people that are suddenly being blocked.
Clumsy algorithms.
Yeah.
And it's just ridiculous. And when it comes down to is you've got all these power players damseling, and when they're no longer facing some kind of a perceived threat, or they're no longer pushing this idea that they're being threatened, they go at each other's throats. Because it wasn't too long ago that Zoe Quinn, Brianna Wu, Anita Sarkeesian, and all of them were vying for the attention of who was the biggest victim. Being like, no, I'm the biggest victim. No, I am. No, I was targeted more. They just started getting at each other's throats and trying to vie for the attention of all of these white knights.
Yeah.
And hurling these people, using them as political pawns against one another. It's so completely ridiculous, and you almost feel bad for the white knights, because in their minds they're doing something good. In their minds they're protecting the women's. They're protecting the minority groups.
Poor innocent women's.
But the thing is that
it's a vulnerability that men have that it's far too easy to exploit. Like, aside from the fact that we socialize men with this sense of responsibility for protecting women throughout their entire childhood, ladies first, don't hit girls, share with your sister, just anything to the point where they grow up being taught that they need to expect to give women the lion's share, and where they're taught to step back and give women the benefit of everything first. So when they get to the situation where they see these women damseling and in these battles between these other women attacking other women, they end up getting used as cannon fodder like that. It is so easy for women to just manipulate them into blindly attacking each other, and even verbally or socially attacking other women, simply because one has damseled and pretended to be vulnerable, or even just said a bunch of things that sound reasonable, and then the next thing she says is completely unreasonable. They'll ignore the fact that the last thing is completely unreasonable because she has made herself someone that they can sympathize with, and it's something that men need to start teaching their sons in, because in history, it wasn't necessarily always the case that people didn't realize this. It's been on and off throughout history. It's been ignored, and on and off throughout history, it's been understood and dealt with. That men do have to take female damseling with a grain of salt if they don't want to be exploited like this.
Yeah, and whenever they have historically called them on their bullshit, people, the contemporaries of today, will say, oh, they were just being sexist against women by portraying them in this way. No, they're talking about a very specific kind of woman that you need to watch out for. The kind who will just use you as cannon fodder for their own ends, because they understand that they have that kind of power over men, and they're going to use it as an asset.
There's actually a sense of entitlement in that. Not being allowed to exploit men using damseling is one of the things that feminists will point out as a form of oppression. Women are oppressed if they cannot damsel to weaponize men against each other and other men.
It's the topic. It's the topic. We're close. We're over. We're over the target now.
Like, if you cannot weaponize your boyfriend against your ex-boyfriend for having the gall to move on and be with another woman, you are oppressed. You deserve better than that. If you
wasn't there a whole movie about that? Like the Scott Pilgrim one, where he has to
yeah, exactly,
kick her ex-boyfriend's ass.
Yeah, before he's good enough to date her. Like you're gonna have to deal with all my evil exes.
Be a good boy and go attack.
Yeah,
that's a good.
I mean, I liked Scott Pilgrim, but I liked it because it was very self-aware of how fucking bullshit it was that he had to go through all that crap.
Oh, that's good, because I haven't seen it yet based on that principle. I was like, I'm not gonna but
and the thing about it is that like
it's in the queue.
He can't actually, spoiler alert, he can't actually get to the end where he has where he can't actually beat the final enemy until he realizes that what he needs to do, that this needs to be for him, that he shouldn't be doing this for somebody else or for love or anything, that if he's trying to get his balls back, it's because he wants them.
Oh, that's
and he wants to get them back from somebody else who's taken them from him.
I like that.
So that's actually pretty fucking cool. So yeah.
Just to explain, I guess the bit of the topic. The topic is basically about how women weaponize men in a threat narrative. Essentially, they weave a narrative about either a group of people or another woman or a man or whatever, and they weaponize men and turn them into ways of trying to destroy what they hate, supposedly. And there are a lot of examples of that. For one example that comes to mind is a while back I read When She Was Bad, which is about teenage girls and the kind of violence that they engage in. And one girl had an interest in a young man, and her rival decided to seduce him, had no actual interest in him sexually or romantically, but decided to seduce him in order
User disconnected from your channel.
In order to actually hurt her rival. So she was essentially playing with this guy's emotions, just in the interests of hurting a woman. So it's basically just not really seeing men as people, but just tools to enact revenge or destroy something or just populate a threat narrative. Yeah. And I mean, it's a really common behavior. I think Gone Girl, which we had a whole podcast on, and you can find it on our channel. That's another example of her weaponizing men.
Well, think about any time. This is just real quick. Think about any time you find out that a woman has lied about being raped to avoid admitting to her boyfriend or her love interest that she has gone and fucked somebody else.
Or to get out of a $13 taxi cab fare.
Yeah, or any of the other myriad of reasons that they have just lied about where they were or what happened to get some end.
Yeah, actually, probably my thought, one of the most famous ways in which females weaponized, men as the decision makers in this society, but they weaponized all of society. But it's men that actually end up having to do the dirty deeds in the end. In this is the witch trials, Salem witch trials. You think about this. Even though they got everybody up in arms, the people who had to actually take care of business when it came to deciding if someone was guilty, deciding what the punishment was going to be if someone was guilty, and enacting the punishment were all men back then. And so you had all these young women who were going after mostly other women, but also men, where they would create that threat narrative and essentially made themselves appear so credible that, of course, back then people believed in magical thinking. Well, if this pinprick appeared in this girl's arm and she said this other person did it, that must be true. But at the same time, we're seeing the same thing, the same underlying claim with the Gamergate witch hunts and the against the games themselves, against concepts like misogyny and oppression of women in gaming, as we saw back in the Salem witch trials, which was this person or group that I have decided is the enemy, or this concept that I have decided is the enemy, is hurting the community, and I'm the only one that can help you find the culprit and do something about it. And that seems to be one of the most powerful ways that women can have somebody ostracized in a community, or can affect change in a community, by creating that threat narrative that the entire community is endangered in some way or another by the enemy they have picked out, and they are the prophet, or whatever you want to replace prophet with, but basically the prophet that is leading the way to prevent that damage from taking place.
Second V for Vendetta, you see the Chancellor screaming, remind them why they need us.
Yeah. And as far as Gamergate's concerned, we have, Saint Sarkeesian and it's the same thing with Wu, it's the same thing with Quinn, it's the same thing with all of them. That even goes right down to the use of the term misogyny. Misogyny is no longer feminist for hatred of women. It's feminist for blasphemy. They don't care if you actually have any feelings towards women at all or not. It's about whether or not you've said something they disagree with. And all of their terms are similar to that. They'll give it a definition, they'll use it based on that definition, but they have increasingly shallow application of it, to the point where it really doesn't mean anything at all when they're saying it.
Well, take misogyny. Well, I would consider nonsense. Reducing women down to victims in every conceivable circumstance and never saying, well, what if they're not?
Yeah.
That itself is misogyny. Like, I would say it's a good candidate. Now, if you wanted to apply misogyny in the strict sense, which is hatred of women, well, it's hating some part of women. Let me tell you. And when you point that out to them, they, of course, don't even care. They don't. You can give them a whole list of facts about how this is actually probably causing all of the problems that they point out with women being outside of STEM fields and not being CEOs, and they don't care. They just want to maintain their belief system, their threat narrative. They don't really even care about the women who are crushed by it either, or the men. But that's neither here nor there. It's a little off topic. I apologize. I'll go flagellate myself. Because I did it this time.
You do.
And then we'll sell video.
Shall I send you the tape, Karen?
Yes, you should. It should be, I'm sorry I'm white. I'm sorry I'm... Oh, you can't say I'm sorry I'm male.
Well,
you're hitting
I could be a
yourself. You can say,
I'm
sorry you're a sock
thoughts
puppet.
in my brain, right?
I'm sorry
I
I'm white.
Internalized misogynies.
I'm sorry I'm white. I'm sorry I'm a misogynist. I'm sorry I'm white. I'm sorry I'm a misogynist. No. Oh, I don't forget, I'm sorry I'm straight, and I'm sorry I'm cisgendered.
Well, I can do cisgendered, but can't do straight, so... it'll just have to be, I'm sorry I'm cis, I'm sorry I'm white, I'm sorry I've got internalized soggy knees.
Oh, gosh.
And,
Wait,
I don't know what else.
I just came back to this. I have no idea what you guys are going about.
Allison's talking about her daily session of self-flagellation.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, chat wants you to start gently with that.
Where she punishes herself for her bad
so she's
thoughts.
a masochist.
She's not a masochist. If she was a masochist, it would not be a penitent thing to do, right? It wouldn't be a penance. It would just be enjoyment, right? She can't be a masochist and then flog herself to punish herself for all the bad things she is and does and thinks. Can she?
That's true. Then it's not really.
It would defeat the purpose. It's like when I threaten to punch one of my coworkers in the penis all the time, and he's like, "Do it, I like it." I'm like, "Well, you've just ruined it for me."
Yeah, if you like it, it's not gonna be fun.
Okay, all right. Is there more that we can say on the topic? I mean, it's like women do this. It's bad.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a few things that can be said. I mean, we can talk about obviously Gamergate has they've figured out they see it, they know it's happening. They don't they're not buying into it, but they're not the only community that it can happen. I mean, it's and it could happen even unnoticed Gamergate if any of the women within the movement were to get upset with each other. That could cause. I mean, it's happened between people already in Gamergate where there's been lines drawn and nipping at each other and everything. And the first thing that people have done is say, "Hey, let's not have this infighting." And it's a lot of times it's quieted down. But it would be very, very hard to do that. It would be harder to do that, harder to quiet that infighting down if you're dealing with females fighting other females, especially if they're able to turn the damseling charm on, or turn on, and specifically turn on that whole, this person is a danger to the community. If so you start seeing women calling each other shills. Well, this person's getting too much attention. This person's making too much money. This person's ideas aren't helpful, and they shouldn't be allowed to talk because I don't like what they're saying. Things like that are dangerous. Yeah. It's good to disagree. It's bad to back someone in trying to shut somebody else up or call someone else's participation in a group or part in a community illegitimate because you don't like things they've said that are not, obviously if they start saying, well, yeah, maybe I agree with anti-gamergate and you should all be gassed, call them out on it. Disagree with them, say, gosh, that's really stupid, But if you get somebody that says, well, this person's a right-winger and I don't think they should be part of Gamergate, or this person's a left-winger and they're Marxist and I don't think they should be part of Gamergate because feminists are Marxist, that kind of thing you should be wary of and really strongly consider it before you start jumping in and swinging.
And there is one thing I have to say about the Intel situation, and there's been a bit of debate about whether or not we should, push the narrative that that Intel is bad for doing this. And I would say, yeah, Intel totally screwed up on this one by siding behind Anita Sarkeesian, because she is the princess in the tower, saying, "Oh, you see, guys, I'm being abused and oppressed here, and the reason why they're against me is not because I'm completely full of shit and saying things that are anti-capitalist or blaming school shootings and stuff on toxic masculinity. No, it's none of those things. It's because of sexism." It's because of sexism in the tech industry. And I'm going to tell you one thing right now. What you're doing right now by putting a logo on on these tweets is genius. And I'll tell you why. I do have a degree in graphic design. And one of the things that people don't mention when they're talking about when they're talking about companies is how important brand recognition is. Brand recognition is one of the most important parts of advertising and selling your product. So when you have that logo, that is part of the brand recognition. It is the identity of the company, and you are placing their identity on something that is it's not something that is desirable. You are forcing them to admit that what they have done is they have sullied their own brand. They have run it through the dirt, and they probably won't want to own up to that. But the thing is that they try very hard. They put millions and millions of dollars into brand recognition so that you, when you are off in another country or doing whatever, and you see a logo, you identify it with good feelings. So keep up what you're doing. I don't have any issue at all with you guys doing that, because that is probably the best way that you will get them to notice. Because if their brand recognition, if their brand suffers as a result of that, that is one of the ways you can win. And people are saying, oh, you're burning a bridge. They burned the bridge already. They have made their choice that they are going to side with the princess in the tower, because that is what looks good on them. But we're going to show them that it doesn't look good on them at all, because the princess is not a helpless maiden.
Basically, we're not going to pay you to fund somebody who sits there and tries to silence other people because she doesn't like what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what's really bad is people who are now involved in Gamergate, and people in the men's rights community, people who are not involved in Gamergate even, but who are MRAs or not MRAs, but just gamers who had something to say, and even just people who thought her videos were ridiculous on their own merits or lack thereof, tried to engage her in rational conversation about what she had to say. I have a complaint. Okay, well, your complaint is you stated your complaint as X. I disagree with X on the following basis: 1, 2, 3, 4, and she called those threats, and she called that harassment.
Yeah,
this is a situation where it's perfectly obvious what's going on there. This is a situation where she is weaponizing people. She damseled for money, and then damseled for people to attack her critics. That is not that's not debate. That's not trying to have a discussion. That's trying to dictate how everybody else lives their lives. This is something that's an incredible danger that women are capable of creating huge rifts, creating huge conflicts within communities, and even dragging other people from outside those communities in to join the fray, so to speak. And this would be a similar situation, like if we are all, saying not just, don't support companies that fund this kind of behavior, which is basically what we and what Gamergate is kind of doing with Intel is, hey, don't support this kind of trying to silence people. Don't fund these people. We don't want to be part of that. We won't support your company if you're going to fund trying to silence people who want to, nobody's tried to silence her. We just argued with her. We just disagreed with her. And, we don't care if she talks or doesn't talk. We just don't think that she has the right to be the only voice. But if we were to turn around and say, no, Anita Sarkeesian's videos should be taken down and censored, then you shouldn't listen to us either.
Yeah.
One of the most ridiculous things about this, just one last thing, is they're talking about promoting diversity in the workplace. And you look at these companies that are anti-Gamergate, like Silverstring Media, and who have they hired? Mostly white men.
Yeah, well, I was going to say something about what Hannah was talking about. I mean, people need to learn to differentiate the difference between having an emotional resentment towards someone and actually calling them out on something that's legitimately bullshit, like advocating a position that is untenable or unethical or not logically consistent, and just not liking a person. And I mean, as long as you can do that, I think you're fine. And I just wanted to point out that I think there is a tendency among women to, and I think this is something that gamers should be aware of, that go into an all-male community or a mostly male community, and they sort of weaponize the men in them. It's like the queen bee scenario, and then they take and often they'll direct it at a thing. I mean, this is what's happening in Gamergate. There's these queen bees going into Gamergate, and they're weaponizing the men in it, and they're causing the men to have to take sides, and and it doesn't matter what the target is. This is what they're doing. And it's not fair to men to be used in this manner. And I will shuffle off.
Yeah. Well, this is why they say that there's no such thing as a girl on the internet, because it's not that there aren't any women on the internet. It's that, once you come out and say, I am a woman, what you are actually saying is, I want all of the privileges and the attention that go along with being a woman. Basically, you are in some kind of weird Schrodinger's cat situation, because you're neither male nor female. You're somewhere that is neutral. You are just a name on a screen until you define your gender and point out to somebody, oh, hi there, I'm a girl on the internet. Give me things. Look at my boobs.
Yeah, that's been my experience, because I have, my name has the word chick in it, or I have female slanted names, like in Guild Wars and things like that, and people have constantly offered me free shit, or like just, hey, let me help you, simply because of being a girl on the internet. So it certainly is a thing.
Yeah, it definitely is a thing. I noticed it on Reddit. My Reddit name is a Nero's Grip. It's not a gendered name, and therefore the sort of the default, because in forums like that, well, I was in the men's rights forum, so it was assumed that I was male, and there was a huge difference in the way people would argue with me if they thought I was male versus if they thought I was female. At least when feminist men would come in and try to persuade men in the men's rights subreddit that feminism was for them too. As soon as they found out I was female, their entire demeanor would change, and their arguments would become more gentle and pandering, and, well, we're here for you, we're doing this for you, and I
want to rescue you into my pants. I
want to rescue you into my pants. Hey there, Little Red Riding Hood, you sure are looking good. But yeah, I just being female has it gives you a control switch that really we shouldn't have. It gives you a control switch that it socially forces men, it coerces men into taking a different attitude than they would be taking if you were another man.
I actually haven't found that. I've actually found that the most vicious people that I've argued with have been male feminists. And
they're breed of their own.
It's very it really is. It makes me think of that song. Sham the Sam and or Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. Hey there, Little Red Riding Hood.
I just maybe they just don't see me. Just maybe the way I argue and the way I express myself. It's almost like they get really mad. It's kind of like, why aren't you behaving like a woman?
Yep, you're even farther off the reservation than the rest of us are.
Yeah, and they're just like, they will get really, really mean. I had one who was like, if you don't agree with me, then you love rape. I'm like, the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Oh my God, if one of them ever says that to me, I'm going to be like, well, you're raping me right now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Don't stop.
Yeah, I'm just like, it was a discussion on circumcision, and I basically said, okay, so what's
how did
wait, if you oppose circumcision, you like rape?
No, it was, I basically said to him, okay, what is the difference? Okay, what is the difference to the infant? From the infant's perspective, is there a difference between a sicko freaking sadistic pedophile who is Basically, he takes a child out of its home, right, and cuts its penis without anesthetic and jerks off while he's doing it. Okay? Versus a doctor who does it, takes money, and shakes the parents' hands. What's the difference to that baby? What's the difference in the experience that baby experiences? Yeah. Right? There is no difference. Right? The baby can't contextualize the motivations of the person that's doing this, that's inflicting this on him. Right? Baby's not aware of what what that person is doing, whether they're getting off to it or whether they're just being a doctor, matter of fact, professional, right? No, none of that makes any difference to that baby. And he said, if you can't see the difference, then you love rape.
That is so feminist.
What?
But it all goes back to rape. Shaming language because Karen asked him to consider the problem or the question from the perspective of the experience of a male victim. That, like, you short-circuited him.
Yeah, I did. And I've done that with a few guys, a few male feminists. There was one who I had this big, huge, long fucking conversation. And he's like, well, my dad, it was the 80s, and my dad fought for custody, and he got custody of me, right? So that proves you wrong, right? And I asked him, I'm just curious. How long did it take, and how much money did he have to spend? Guy disappeared.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
No response.
Yeah. Why should men have to be independently wealthy to be able to have their own children? But I wanted to bring it back to the topic with a question from chat. This is from Alien Gearbox. Can you talk about why white knights do it and what they actually get from it? Their fantasy versus reality.
Can I do that one?
Sure,
okay,
go ahead.
Go on.
Jump right into that.
Go, Sage.
Okay. I've actually written extensively on the subject before, and I think it has a lot to do with essentially cultural factors that facilitate and implicitly encourage male codependency. In essence, I mean, everything that we look at involving guys and their move toward either becoming feminist, move toward becoming white knight or social justice warrior, it all has to do with this common need to have approval, this common need to essentially externalize what makes them, I guess you could say, good men. And I know Allison wrote on that subject in her excellent article, The One Good Man. But in essence, codependency, this obsessive fixation on other people's problems over their own, I mean, it really does seem to be, in essence, an environment where affection itself is something that you have to buy with your service when you're a man. You have to, in essence, offer yourself in such a way that in exchange, you get approval. And it's really sad because that shows that affection itself is in demand as a commodity. And when you have men who are in that situation where they take on codependent habits, even if they're not codependent by birth, they're codependent by conditioning, they end up with that situation where the only real fulfillment they get in life is through the artificially, I guess you could say, artificially instilled altruism. And it's actually really interesting when you put a man in a position where they have to reflect on the void they left inside of themselves. And I think this is kind of what we saw with Karen recalling her discussion with a male feminist here, because the male feminist was in a position where he was basically dealing with somebody who was not ready to just exchange approval in that regard. Karen's doesn't seem to be that kind of person at all. So the male feminist is in that position where he, in essence, goes rogue. He doesn't know what to do. So he can't exactly get her approval. So in essence, he assumes there's something wrong with her. So it's all about this very psychological, emotionally manipulative need to try to frame the discussion such that the woman is in some way appreciative, because that makes the man not hate himself as much. It's really disgusting, but I think that is probably, codependency is probably the common factor, and the artificial conditioning to codependency is the common factor that causes men to become these disgustingly insecure and just self-hating individuals. So I think that's what white knights are looking for. White knights are in essence embodied codependence.
They're lapdogs of feminism, and yeah, we did definitely have a culture. I agree with that completely. We have a culture of the domesticated male, of where everything for about 30 years now has been blaring through the television, the boob tube, that be nice guy, be basically a slave to everything that women want you to do. Otherwise, you're the bad guy, and every single show has the muscular, douchebag or the arrogant guy, and it's constantly painting guys who are not a complete omega as this, alpha douche that everyone should hate. And that's been going on for a really long time now.
Well, I mean, I was going
to say, it can even be a very subtle thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be the black and white terms of the white knight versus the enemy and all of that. There can be circumstances where a guy doesn't even realize he's white knighting because that tendency to support women, that conditioning to support and give and take care of and nurture and protect women, and also to view women as morally superior and generally innocent. It makes it
the
easy.
Pedestal.
Yeah, it makes it easy for women, sometimes even by accident. I have in my past, particularly before I learned how to recognize those dynamics. I can look back at things that have happened to me in the past, that I've been involved in the past, where I've realized, oh gosh, there were guys that I didn't specifically intend them to behave a certain way in response to me, but I set off reactions that I would not have set off if I was a male under the same circumstances. So, and then in that circumstance, these guys would have been white knighting for me. That happened at the workplace where I was being harassed by my boss and it was a legitimate situation. I was a damsel, I guess, and to some extent, although I really didn't feel like one because I didn't ask people to fix it for me. Yeah. I simply endured the situation until I could figure out a solution myself, which was to move on to another job. But just in acknowledging it and occasionally venting about it, I ended up pitting male coworkers against her that would have been more cooperative with her and worked better with her had I endured it silently, since I was choosing to endure it rather than to go after the company.
Well, with me, I found that, my boyfriend has repeatedly told me, out of all of the many women I've been with, he said, I think there might have been a couple more manys. He said, I am the one who brings out the smallest protective instinct in him, virtually non-existent. I just don't push those buttons in him. And,
you know what?
But at the same time, there he is, one night, and he's poking around shit Reddit says, and there's this huge thread of freaking SJWs talking shit about me, and he looks at me and he says, I just want to go in there and defend you. And I'm like, don't you fucking do it. Don't you dare. You're going to fucking embarrass me. What the hell is wrong with you? Right?
Okay,
just let them talk.
There's a difference between white knighting and the natural desire to protect people who are close to you.
Yes.
Yeah. There is.
That is perfectly, white knighting is a weird sort of entity. I'm going to take a completely different angle from this. I'm not going to say that white knights are necessarily submissive. I think in their own passive aggressive way, they're actually quite domineering and macho, because in protecting the precious dainty flower of a princess, they are reducing, and this includes feminists, for all their posturing about men or women being strong. They still say things like, "Are you afraid of a strong woman?" Well, yes, because a strong woman has the capability of hurting you, unless you don't think she actually is strong. So yeah, you should be a little intimidated by one if you genuinely believe she's strong. and you should consider that she should be held to a moral standard using her strength. And so that they have this kind of nature that they are minimizing women's agency. They are making them into weak and victims, and it's like there's this bit of macho posturing in that as well. There's a quality of there are, I guess, the guys who are inclined towards this framing because it makes them feel powerful.
You know, I got to correct something I said earlier because of what you just said. I have experienced aggressive white knighting where there weren't white knighting against me, but trying to emotionally or verbally coerce me into accepting being white knighted for. I have had some like, and I personally didn't necessarily see it as abuse. I didn't feel abused because that was done. I thought it was shitty behavior, and I kind of rejected the behavior. The one time that it was abusive, it was in the context of therapy. I went to see a therapist, and a therapist tried to verbally abuse me into accepting a narrative that was not the experience I was in there to receive treatment for. And I quit going to that therapist because of that. But I've actually had white knights online try to flat out order me to be a recovering victim because of experiences I've been through, because if I'm not traumatized by things that have happened to me, that hurts women that say they are traumatized by things that have happened to them. And how dare I not be traumatized in solidarity with them, and how dare I reject their attempt to advance my right to be traumatized against my will.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I had this too. When I talked about my own experience, blogged about my experience with sexual assault, I took so much fucking heat from feminists who they essentially they said that almost like that I didn't have a right to talk about it because I got over it so quickly, and because I got over it so quickly, and other women don't. Right, even though my experience might have helped those women to figure out how to get over it, right? Get past it, right? Because other women don't get over it like that, I should not be allowed to speak because I'm hurting other victims.
Well, and the reality is, it might be that some other women don't get over it that easily because there are feminists telling them how traumatized they have to be.
Oh yeah, no, and how your life is over. Your life is over.
There's no the other way around.
There's no getting over this. There's no. You might as well just commit. Rape is worse than death. You might as well off yourself right now.
I want to hear what the thing is, Karen.
Us by saying, I went through this experience and it was hard and it hurt and it was traumatic, and I'm dealing with that and I'm getting better from that, and I'm not giving the people who did it to me the power to keep hurting me now that they're not here, and I can be strong and I can get on with my life and just be me and not have to dwell on that. Just saying that, just being that person, I call that talking over victims' voices.
Yes.
When in reality, what they're doing is talking over survivors' voices.
Yes.
And I've had people complain about the use of the word survivor. I faced down a gun. I'm a survivor, not a victim.
Yeah.
Just for the record.
Okay, and I wanted to add to that. It goes beyond specific instances of personal, like being victimized personally, and how your experience of it, and how they expect you to be the worthy victim, and to be destroyed by something, to focus more on what was done to you rather than what you can do as a person to get over it. But the other thing that white knights do is they have this vision of reality in which they reduce women down to a victim in every conceivable circumstance. And if you don't accept their version of reality, if you say, well, wait a second, I need a little bit more than just you saying that to agree with this, to agree to reducing myself down to a victim in this circumstance. I need a little bit more than just you saying that. I need you to maybe provide some facts, look at the other side, what's happening with men, some statistics, just a little bit more. They go apeshit.
Well, this is why they hate Wendy McElroy. Right? Yeah. They hate her. They hate everything about her because she's been a victim of sexual assault. She's been a victim of domestic violence. Domestic violence so severe that she's now legally blind because of it. Okay, so she has a history of real violence, not the kind of violence that feminists want us to include in the definition, which means like giving her the silent treatment or withholding sex and affection or whatever. No, she was stricken legally blind and she's blind in one eye because of this, right? And they cannot stand her because she speaks out for men and their right to due process. She speaks out against victim culture. She speaks out against the pettiness of the grievances. She had a very, very good article just today on the Daily Bell. The petty grievances like manspreading that feminists are obsessed with right now, preoccupied with, right? She is firmly in favor of a principled approach to justice for everyone, and they can't stand that somebody who's been through what she's been through, right, which is 100 times worse than anything I went through, I can tell you that much, right, can speak passionately on behalf of due process rights for men accused of sexual assault and domestic violence, right? That she can do that she has the brains to be able to see beyond her own experience and the compassion to be able to consider men human in spite of the fact that she has been victimized by some men, right? It's absolutely, they don't know what to do with her other than to silence her. And as far as I know, that the speech that she did at Brown, she was in a debate with Jessica Valenti there, where they both spoke for 20 minutes and then did a Q&A. I went back and checked, and I wanted to watch it again because
it's back
the last
now.
5 minutes. Is it
It is back. Ooh. It is back now. It came back about 3 weeks ago or something. But yeah, it disappeared for
No. I checked like day before yesterday, and it's on her channel, and it's gone. Right?
Again?
Yeah.
I hear she lost that debate. Jessica Valenti. Like, horribly.
Well, I suppose it's all a matter of perspective, right? I mean, like, I'm sure that the people there who started out agreeing with Jessica Valenti probably finished off agreeing with Jessica Valenti and having very hostile feelings for Wendy McElroy. And I'm sure that the people who were open-minded and were, coming from a principled approach rather than an emotional one, would figure that Wendy McElroy won the debate, right? So, I mean, generally, when people are very entrenched in their belief systems, it's extremely difficult to change their minds.
Yeah. You can't change their mind rationally, which is really, it ties back to what I was saying. If these white knights have just picked up this idea that women are victims, where did the impetus to believe it come from? If they can't rationally explain it, then it came from an emotional bias. And what could possibly be the emotional bias to see women as victims of every single circumstance? What could be the emotional bias underlying that? The emotional bias underlying that is you believe women are weak.
Okay, and that really I think that really because if you look at most male feminists, they're not extremely masculine men. right? And every once in a while, I get the sort of the white knighting thing. It's not generally in the sense of, I'm struggling with some parcels and somebody offers to help me. It's I'm helping some dude jumpstart his car, right? And he's trying to start it too soon. Like the battery hasn't been charging long enough, and he's trying. And I'm saying, you maybe should just leave it for probably another 45 seconds, and then it'll go. And he's like, "Oh, see here, Missy, I'm the big strong man. I work on the oil rigs, right? And I know what I'm doing, right?" And I'm just like, "Oh, fucking okay, right?" And then he leaves it for 45 seconds, and then it starts. But so, I mean, that is kind of, in a sense, white knighting. It's basically white knighting in some ways, I think, is territorial. It is saying, it is my job to defend you, right? It is my job to protect you. It is my job to do things for you because you can't do them for yourself. And if you actually could do them for yourself, if you actually knew how to jumpstart a car, or install a new car battery all on your own, you wouldn't need me.
Well, by their own definition, this is benevolent sexism. This is...
It absolutely is.
It's a demand for benevolent sexism when they do it on purpose. But, the thing is, not all weaponizing of men by women involves white knighting. And it's like, I looking back at the situation I started to describe in my workplace, if I had been... of the mindset, I probably could have literally torn that place apart, because at different levels of administration in the store, I had people willing to side with me that because they knew the story. I had a legitimate reason. I had a legitimate complaint. Even if I'd had an illegitimate complaint, I worked hard to make myself likable because it was a retail environment, and that's part of your job in retail is to make yourself likable to get people to buy your stuff, But you want to make yourself likable to your coworkers too, because you want to be able to work with them and not be the annoying person that they don't want to work with. But this is something that women do. I've seen women do it in other workplaces where they literally just tear the place apart. And the difference between what happened when I had a conflict in that workplace and when I had a conflict in another workplace, that was the entire environment was women. There were 2 men that worked there, and 8 or 10 women that worked there. And there was a conflict between me and one of the other women. And first, I was real quiet about it because I was confused by it. I'm very often confused by conflicts with other women because I don't always understand the root of the conflict. But it became a big thing in the workplace, and I didn't know it because there was a rumor mill. And I learned after the conflict between me and the other woman had been going on, I thought completely just between us and quietly, for a couple of months. I learned that everybody knew about it, and lines had been drawn and sides taken. And it literally ended up creating a terrible environment for everybody. And by that time, I really couldn't do anything to fix that because it was already, I didn't even see it coming. I was completely blindsided by that. And so I began answering, did exactly the wrong things. I began answering people's questions about, what's going on? What's your side of this? What's actually happening here? And what that did was it gave ammunition to everybody who felt they were on a side with the person I was in conflict with. And it gave unintentionally gave ammunition to everyone who was taking what they thought was my side of the conflict. And in the end, it just, kind of exploded. So it's a completely different situation. Men will get involved if you damsel. Women will get involved because they're nosy bitches, or or because loyalty not confirmation bias, in-group bias, and that just really it creates an entirely different dynamic. But back to the whole, there doesn't have to be a white knighting situation to create this weaponizing. The original workplace I was talking about, had I decided to damsel and had I decided to sort of make things difficult for the person that was discriminating against me, all I would have had to do was allow the damage that she was doing in my life to show and be known by the right group of people, including consumers in that workplace. And there actually would have been a concerted effort to get rid of her as an employee with that company. There would have been complaints. There would have been, changes in the way people responded to her. There would have been all kinds of stuff, and it would have all been a very subtle thing if I wanted it to. And if I decided I was going to manipulate and actually took the steps that I've seen other women take, as long as I didn't screw it up, as it's not the thing I normally do, and so I'm not accustomed to it. If I did, as long as I did it the way people like Anita Sarkeesian do it, I probably could have really wrecked her career. Just by and in the process, anybody that sided with her as well, especially any men that sided with her.
Yeah. And that's that. I wanted to get into that a little bit before because we are over, so we should probably be winding down. But the thing is that when you're a woman and you're in this kind of you have this ability to weaponize men, and you have to be careful not to do it. And sometimes you can do it unconsciously, or you're not even aware of it. So it's something that you sort of have to ride your own ass on. And anybody who's listening, our listenership, our audience, you should hold us being the women who are talking today to the same standard, that we don't engage in this kind of infighting and backbiting and weaponizing men, and don't engage in that kind of threat narrative, because anybody is prone to it. And I think that everybody who's talking today would step back and say, hey, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, holy shit. Yeah. Because I think that's the kind of people we want to be, and to take responsibility for this kind of stuff and to be better people from it. But it's like you should never pedestalize anyone. That includes us. And never take anybody, use reason, take things with a grain of salt, always examine what you're told, and make sure you're making your decisions based on a rational analysis of the issues and not based on a personal bias or based on the fact that, a woman is shedding a tear, or even the alternative is that she may be demonizing someone or something else. There should be some critical thought to this. Sorry, and I wanted to answer a question that came about from Gone Girl. Somebody asked me to explain what I meant by there being a thug in a female way, and I figured this segues well into what I'm saying right now. Women have a greater power over, it's almost like a psychological substrate that our society exists in. We as human beings are the most friendly and cooperative species on the planet. That's the reality.
That's why we're so dominant. Yep.
Yeah, and that's why we're so dangerous. And the reason why we have that ability to cooperate is because there's sort of a social network that we live in, of belonging and a sense of desire to belong and to do right by the people that you feel like you belong to. And in that kind of social network, women are larger than men. They are bigger and stronger than men. And I don't know if the Islamic law is right, that it's like, I don't know, 5 men to every 1 woman. I think that's possibly a good measure. But women are more powerful in that social network, and they need to not use that power to menace and to intimidate and to weaponize men. And that's what I mean by being a female thug, is that when you take that power that you have over the sense of belonging of a society, because our first sense of belonging comes from a woman, it comes from our mother. She essentially says to us what it is to be human and what it is to belong to the human race on a very fundamental psychological level. And from at that point onwards, women in our lives have that ability to define the center of belonging of a group or a society or a philosophy. And they really need to take responsibility for that and not use that power to be aggressive towards men, to consider the fact that men do have a greater, a sort of a, I don't want to call it a weakness, but a vulnerability to being ostracized, to being ejected from the group, to being seen as creepy, to being seen as unwanted or predatory or undesirable or disgusting, or all of these prerogatives that we throw at men. And they have that vulnerability. And as women, we have the responsibility to not be fucking thugs.
Yeah, that's absolutely. That goes back to the how we evolved as macaques, where there's all animals have either female dominated and female bonded society or male bonded, and it's basically a way they deal with interbreeding and to make sure that there's no strangeness. Either all the males leave and the female matriarchy stays, or converse, where it's male bonded, where it's like let's say a wolf pack, where mainly the males stay and then they have a stable of females that they breed with, and then other females like leave and raise their young on their own. And so humans are very much like that they're female bonded, and there's a very strong matriarchy. Like the Jewish lineage, for instance, traces itself through the female blood through the mother, and there's a variety of other ways. So there's matriarchy is real, and if we're gonna be a matriarchy as we are, we might as well be kind to people that support us and the men that make everything basically happen as indentured slaves as they are currently.
Well, this is one of the things that I always found really interesting, is because if you look at chimpanzees and you look at how they organize in their harems, right? So they're a tournament species. They have their harems, dominant male, 5 or 6 females, right? And they live in troops of several harems, and there's subordinate males all over the place too, right? The reason those subordinate males are tolerated is because, the reason why the dominant males are all capable of tolerating each other is because they're all related. They're all related to each other, because it's the females that leave at maturity, right? And the females are not related to each other, and yet the females form stronger coalitions than the males. These females who have no kinship bonds, right, are more capable of forming a coalition to act in their interest against the opposite sex than males are.
Kind of loyalty.
Well, I mean, it actually depends on which subspecies you're talking about. Bonobos are like that. Chimps tend to groom each other. Male chimps tend to be more bonded because they're grooming each other more often.
Well, they are definitely more bonded, but you still have male coalitions. The male coalitions among common chimpanzees, they form outwardly, out from the community, hunting, border patrols, warfare, sometimes genocidal violence against neighboring troops, right? Okay, so that's how they form their coalitions. Sometimes they will form a small coalition of 4 or 5 male chimpanzees to act against a dominant male, boot him out, everybody goes a rung up the ladder, right? So they're not acting against the females. They're not ganging up to act against the females or any female in their group. Right?
And before you guys get too caught up in other species and talking about other species, there is something I want to point out. And this is something that was from the chat next to the actual to the hangout, and it was OSG Neko stated, and he was talking about making a meme, but this is really kind of relevant to the discussion. Men stormed the beaches of Normandy. Women stormed Facebook. This is a really, really good point about the difference between how men in groups and women in groups approach conflict.
Oh, here's
to say that women don't become violent against each other, because I've seen some bitch fights that have been pretty bloody and nasty, but women do have more of a subtle way of approaching conflict. The type of manipulation that we've been discussing is exactly that.
Well, but okay,
rather than trying to attack the concepts themselves that are objectionable to them on Facebook, like the Women Action Media that attacked Facebook wasn't created because women were being hurt. It was created because women weren't controlling the dialogue. It was created because women were not in charge in that social environment. And what they basically did there, women stormed Facebook not by actually going directly into conflict with the opponents that they were seeking to take down. They stormed Facebook by contacting other people, other entities, advertisers, and the administrators of Facebook and so on, and
by engaging the patriarchy and getting the patriarchy to do it for them.
They demanded that the patriarchy that they saw in place give them control.
User disconnected from your channel.
What's the same thing as...
Well, and then at the other end of it, what you see, like the men stormed the beaches of Normandy, that was a situation where those men were told by their government and their news media and their situation, there's a threat here, you have to stop it. And they did. Yes. That they stepped and stopped it. And however you feel about where I know that we've probably got everything ranging from historians and strategists in our audience to pacifists and everything, but that was the approach. It wasn't, well, somebody's got to do something. Let's start contacting the right people and see if somebody can make something happen. It's, okay, let's take care of it. We are going to volunteer and go over there, or we are going to step up when we get asked, when we get demanded that we go, because of course there was still, there were draftees. And they just went and did it.
Well, this is what I was getting at, was that male chimpanzees formed their coalitions to largely to enforce community interests on the outside world, right? And to enforce male interests on other males within the community, okay? Female chimpanzees form their coalitions to enforce their own interests on the other members of their community. Now, what does that sound like? That sounds like men being drafted to go to the Great War, men being shamed into service, into enlisting during the White Feather Campaign, right, to protect their entire fucking country, okay? And while all of that was going on, what were women doing other than shaming them into enlisting and campaigning for a draft? Oh, what were they doing? They were bitching about how they didn't have the vote and trying to enforce female interests on the members of their own community. That's what they were doing.
Okay, that is true.
That's really
it's definitely an example of white knighting, but we gotta, you know what? As much as I love you guys, I do want to go to bed eventually.
You don't get to go to bed, Allison.
No, asleep are you?
I was just going to say, it's a parallel to the Intel and Sarkeesian situation, where, as Mundane Matt pointed out on YouTube, that Intel is definitely playing against their own pocket, because on one hand you have the gamers, the pro gamergaters, who actually go out and buy the games, and they're the ones who are like out there protecting the industry they love. And on the other hand, you have the people who sit down and tweet and drink lattes. So they're aligning themselves with the camp of people who don't game, they don't go out, they don't do anything. They're women who do social warfare instead of actual physical anything. So eventually they will suffer from that for aligning themselves with non-gamers, basically, in the end.
Well, in that situation, that is an example of exactly what we're talking about too. You have these organizations, including FemFreak, demanding that Intel support them, and that other advertisers support them, other companies support them, anybody that they can think of, to legitimize their voices, because they know that what they have to say isn't legitimate.
It's because they're chimpanzees. Honestly, I said to somebody, I said to somebody once, let me finish. I said to somebody once,
You're
when
not
I hear
listening
a
to me.
feminist talk,
Karen.
all I envision is a chimpanzee flipping its shit
Red Zerker.
repeating postmodernist gobbledygook. That's what I see.
Okay.
With a red wig on.
Literally chimpanzees.
Literally hoo.
And then you could throw in a pair of estrogen engorged baboon ass cheeks in there, and then the picture is complete.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, but we really got to end this. Yeah, and I personally think that Gamergate, I mean, I think men have the cards, and we're dealing with like a real deep schism in society right now, because we're going from a consumer culture that was driven by women to a consumer culture that's driven by men. And our moral system is just breaking apart because it can't handle that. And it's going to be interesting. It's interesting. It's an interesting ride, right? It's fun, you know.
Times.
It's interesting to see what happens.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Fun. Maybe not fun.
No, it's fun.
It's interesting.
It's interesting. Okay, there you go. It's fascinating. So thank you for... Okay, yeah, highly illogical. Thank you for coming on board and having this conversation about white knighting and princessing, I guess.
Damseling.
So thanks to my co-hosts, and also thanks to our new, I guess you can call her producer. Perfectly awesome. He's helping us out with this new stream. Again, sorry for the technical difficulties. You know, every time you do something new, there's always some sort of problem or issue with it. And thanks for staying the course with us till the end. I really appreciate that. And also, just a few items before we leave. I want to do a shout out to there's a Honey Badger patron Steam game thingy.
Group.
They gave me the information, game group. They gave me the information like multiple times, and I still don't understand it. But just bear with me a little bit.
You didn't show me.
Oh, what? It's just what it is, you know? My God, these people talk a lot. By the way, if you want to become a patron and take part in the patron shenanigans, and there seems to be a lot of patron shenanigans, please do consider going to our patron page and joining, patroning us. If you enjoy what we talk about and you think it's worthwhile to support, we do have our next production goal will be additional shows with a call-in element. And yeah, we really appreciate it. We really cannot do this without you. I've heard that Brianna Wu has $800 per episode or something. Was it Zoe? Zoe Quinn?
Brianna Wu has something like $13,000 a month on Patreon.
For
User
what?
entered your channel.
Being a victim.
Being a professional victim and having bad hair.
I'm up over $400 now a month. So
my fucking God, what?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay for somebody who doesn't damsel. So
getting money to sexually objectify women.
That's not including my titars. So
we need to make it like how many dollars to how many cents she makes versus when you damsel.
That's freaking believable. I can't.
New statistics.
For what? What? Just being a victim, and then they go around and they say, "Oh God, never mind."
And being really bad at making games
like $5,000
too.
Oh, she's just like, and she's so stupid. Like I could see, right? Like feeling sorry for her if she was smart, but I guess like she's
feeling
clever.
Sorry for her if
she's clever in the sense that she knows how to take this victim narrative and run with it, but she's not smart. She doesn't have any insight. She doesn't have any ability to, really look at the picture and analyze what's going on and understand things, right? She just sees, if I'm clever enough to know that if I say that I'm on the run from death threats, and I'm like, I have to leave my home, people will send me money.
Right. Okay, yeah, if you're actually interested in real content, real conversation about the gender issues, and not just this pandering and victim narrative, then please do support our voice. We produce more as we get more resources. I know that's a little bit unusual, a little radical, but we roll in weird ways here in Honey Badger Radio. We roll along angles that you've never even seen before. And so the link to that is patreon.com with an E/honeybadgerradio. You can see it in the low bar as well if you're listening now. And also, please do, Zen Men is doing its spring fundraiser. So you can go to Zen Men and find a donation. I don't have it in the low bar at the moment, but zenmen.com. And do please support Sage because he does great, zenmen.org. He does great work, zenmen.org/men's-rights-spring-fundraiser. And I will put that in the low bar for anybody who's listening later. And do throw a few shekels in for him because he does great work in the academic sphere.
And he made our website.
And I found, yes, he made our website. He's actually even updating it. So yeah, definitely help him out. And please, I'm opening up the invitation because I finally found the information to anybody who wants to take part with the Honey Badger patrons on stream. It is streamcommunity.com/groups/honeybadgergamers. So there you go. But take a look at that. I promised them that I would shill it, and I'm shilling the shilling fuck out of it. So please stop asking me. There you go. Streamcommunity.com/group/honeybadgergamers.
Well, they're not really making money, so it's not really. Anyway,
it's not shilling. Okay, well,
I wouldn't say you're shilling. I would say you're pimping it.
Okay, I'm pimping the fuck out of your group. I'm pimping you, Bendon Rex. Or sorry, Bendon Sex. I'm pimping you. I'm pimping you all.
God damn it.
Okay,
you're such a pimp, Allison.
I know.
We're gonna get you a hat.
I need
with,
the pimp music.
Now that we got the clear go ahead to use the word pimp, we're just gonna go with it.
Yeah, we're just gonna go with it. We're just gonna awkwardly flail into the ditch whenever Antonio decides to end. Oops. Whenever our particular production person decides to end the stream. Oh, now Nephinor's in on it. He wants us to pimp him. Nephinor exists. He's an alien. He likes to probe things. You should look him up.
He also does 3D. He also does 3D animation and modeling. And he's actually working on a Vivian James model, which he intends on animating, and he wants me to voice it with my lovely Tsundere charm.
Tsundere?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that refers to.
It's like this anime thing where they're like all grumpy and personable and like antisocial to begin with, but like warm up.
Baka.
Okay, that doesn't even. I understand less now than when you started. Okay.
Oh.
All right, please.
I got no clue what's even going on now.
Helping.
So.
Yeah. Like it's
not even like I like you or anything, Senpai.
All right, end it.
Right,
end
exactly.
the stream. End it, please. Someone put us out of our misery.
No,
yes, just end it.